Well, let me take a moment to introduce you to the children of the Bridges Center. You can see a picture of them here. I met these kids in 2019 when I made a trip to Nairobi, Kenya. And these children all were born in the poverty of the Nairobi ghettos and slums. They were rescued from that life. They had no families. They were orphans. And now they live as a family of 130 plus kids, and 10 or 12 adults serve as their teachers and mentors and function as their parents. When guests like me show up there, we're treated as family too, and all the kids would call me uncle, which is kind of fun. In any case, how did these kids get to the Bridges Center? When you go to the Bridges Center now, it's a 5-acre complex in a gated community. The children go to school each day, and they spend their lives there learning life skills and getting educated. And they ultimately graduate, go on to high school, and many even go on to college. Some have become airline pilots and onto other successful careers. How did they get there? Well, before the Bridges Center was the complex that it is now, it started very humbly. The founder of the Bridges Center is Rosemary. Here's a picture of Rosemary. And she started simply by going into those slum areas around Nairobi with a gallon of juice and some slices of bread to feed these kids. They had no food, no sustenance. And that was her mission, was to tend to these kids. And her story came to light, and she was discovered by a couple in Minnesota who started sponsoring Rosemary's work. And in the end, the Bridges Center was named for this couple, Bob and Nancy Bridges. 20-some years later now, it evolved from this tiny little 10-foot square metal hut in the middle of the ghetto to this 5-acre complex, now home to 130 plus children, and raising them to be young adults, educated adults. Now, you may say, well, that's quite a story. My nonprofit isn't anything like that. But think about this question. Whatever situation your nonprofit is in now, how are you struggling to grow your organization? How are you struggling to raise funds? How are you struggling to find the resources it takes to fulfill the mission of your organization? And with patience and the right people supporting you, you can grow your organization in a way that the Bridges Center has grown from a one-person operation in the slums of Kenya to the 5-acre complex that it is now. So I want to talk to you today about some strategies that you can use to find the same types of resources that have helped the Bridges Center grow and help your organization grow. So let's get into the 3 goals of this presentation today. When you finish today, I want you to come away with 3 powerful things. First, I want you to go through an exercise with me today that will get you on the path to finding all kinds of hidden resources that you maybe didn't realize you had available to you. We're going to talk about how you discover those resources and then start leveraging them so that your nonprofit organization can best fulfill its mission. Secondly, you're going to go through an exercise that will put you in a position of strength. So many nonprofits, I find, operate from a position of deficit and weakness. And they always look like they're on their last legs. And if you don't come to our rescue with a financial donation exactly this minute, we're going to have to shut down our organization. Well, I don't want you to be in that position. Instead, I want you to be in a position of strength, and I've got some tools to help you achieve that. And finally, I'm going to give you what you need in order to make a connection with small business owners in your community. There's a wealth of untapped potential in your community, I'm sure of it, and everybody is going after the large companies and the large foundations to get their donations and contribution. But there's a lot of smaller organizations that may not seem to have much resource available that you can take advantage of. But they're eager and they're waiting, and they just need to find the right way to connect with you. And so we're going to talk about how you find those small business owners and connect with them and find a new way of interacting with them that allows them to bring new resources to your nonprofit. So even with that short review of the different types of assets that you can look for and leverage to your advantage, you get an idea of just what's possible. I have a quick story to tell you. I did this assets inventory exercise with a small community center in a suburb of St. Paul. And after they went through that, they had quite a long laundry list of untapped, unused assets that were available to them immediately. We followed that up with a second exercise where we picked 2 of those available assets, and they brainstormed about ways to leverage them and generate 2 new income streams for their community center. And their modest but honest assessment was that by activating these 2 new income streams, they could bring $25,000 annually of fresh money into that community center. So there's real value in going through this, and I really want each of you to think about how you would use these untapped assets to the benefit of your organization. Well, let's move into the third phase now of this presentation. We've talked about the assets that you have available to you. We've talked about how to position yourself in a position of strength rather than weakness. Now we want to talk about how you start going about forming those relationships in the community. And for that, I want you to think about ways, again, to make yourself an absolutely magnetic partner to people in your community, people who ultimately look at you and say, I want to hang out with them, I want to be a contributor to their organization. And I have another acronym for you to think about. The acronym is the word LIFE, and these are 4 principles that I think make you a great partner for these small businesses, these other partner organizations, make them want to work with you. So the L in the LIFE acronym is the word laughter. In other words, I want you to be an organization that brings to your partners an element of joy and laughter. And similarly, as you look for partners out in the community, you want a partner that brings you some element of joy and some element of laughter. The I in this acronym is something we've talked about and touched on now, and it's the notion that you are an organization that operates with a level of independence. And so again, we've talked about how you want to be in a position of strength, not weakness. And similarly, you want to be in a position of independence as opposed to dependence. And that will make you particularly appealing for other organizations to want to partner with you. The F in the LIFE acronym is FIT, and how well do you fit with your partner? And I think the best way to flesh that out is for you to share and reveal your mission statement to your potential partners. And by the same token, I want you to ask your partners about their organizational mission statement and really talk that through and have that conversation and see if there's a match there. If you can't line up your mission statement with your potential partner, then I don't think any of the rest of this will ever come together for you. So take some time to be aware and thoughtful of your own mission statement and be prepared to ask your potential partner about theirs. Finally, the E in the LIFE acronym stands for energy, and what you're looking for here is to be an organization that is filled with positive energy, and any potential partners that you choose to work with, they also should bring a positive energy to the relationship. I want to tell you a little bit, circle back now to the Bridges Center that I opened this presentation with. They're a natural partner for me. I have a connection to them naturally through my parents, who are lifelong church members of the church that was one of the primary original sponsors of the Bridges Center. And it was through that church organization that I was able to make my travel to Kenya in 2019. But while I was there, I had the opportunity to bring some of my own skills and strengths to the Bridges Center. Now, I do make a small, very modest, I have to say, financial contribution to the Bridges Center, and I don't think the money I contribute hardly makes a dent in their budget. But all the same, I give what I can, but more importantly, I had other assets available to me that they were ready to receive when I traveled there. And that was the fact that I used to be a science teacher. And so in a previous life, I taught high school and middle school chemistry and physics. And while I was in Kenya at the Bridges Center, I had the opportunity to teach a few science lessons to the children there. And we laughed and we had a good time, and I learned from them as much as they learned from me. Talk about positive energy. When you first arrive at the Bridges Center, the children sing for you. They sing and they sing and they sing, and they rehearse these songs, and they're naturally very musical, and you can't help but smile and feel that positive energy when the children are singing. So, the elements of the LIFE acronym really gelled between the Bridges Center and me. And again, I'm not their biggest donor by any means. But I feel like I've made my own contribution, and these types of connections are what you want to look for with organizations in your community.